This is a guy that was all man. He took showers with the other pros. They came out of there. They said, "Oh my God, that's unbelievable." I had to say it. I had to say it.
I'm not going to make any jokes. I'm just going to cut to the chase for everyone who's listening. Populism has won, and we, on the left, and even anti-Trump, anti-populist conservatives, have lost the war. We've seen the head
I would say,
on
dude,
Tuesday.
just to interrupt. No, we've lost the battle. We haven't necessarily lost the war now.
Oh, it's all a matter of semantics. It's just me. Well, some people say you're being dramatic, you're being a woke libtard. Well, maybe I am, maybe I'm not, but the fact of the matter is Donald Trump won. He done much better than 2022, and he managed to capture votes from demographics that usually somehow lean left. We'll explain that a little later, but this is Mark, Skinny Media, and then Rob Bavister, who I don't know what his ex handle name is, but that's not really important. But we are going to talk about probably the
Just
most
stop calling it X, dude.
day. Oh, okay, whatever. Twitter, Blue Sky. Are you happy now?
Just don't call it X, because by that you're playing into Elon Musk's stupid ego-tripping game, and it's cringe, dude. Dude, you know, Musk is cringe personified, and we don't do cringe here.
Sometimes I do, and I mean, for lack of a better word, right, reeling things back in. This was the most consequential day of 2024, as far as I'm concerned, because it told everyone around the world, all of our little dominions and subjects like UK, Australia, France, Germany, if you really want to win, you got to play the MAGA card. And for the purposes of this podcast,
Well, I hope Democrats don't take that bloody lesson away from it, because that is the wrong lesson to take away from it.
Well, here's what I'm doing on this podcast. I'm playing the conservative, or the more conservative-minded person between the two, and you're the more progressive-minded. Just as role play here to understand why we got to this place.
Okay,
But
not sure. Didn't know we were playing that game, but continue.
well, it helps to differentiate for people who are listening, because probably some people kind of figured out Mark sounds a bit right wing at places, and then probably not. They're not wrong, but just for the intensive purposes of the podcast, we'll discuss it as we go on. But for the most part, when the results came in, because I'm 8 hours ahead from California, it wasn't good, and I was heading to work, a few hours later, and I thought, oh, I knew it was going to happen. I absolutely knew it. I didn't know it was going to be as good for the conservatives. I thought this is going to be, he's going to win by 50.8%. I didn't know it was almost going to be at almost 52. And with all those GOP wins throughout the US, I thought, yep, this confirms everything. The left has just been extinct. We have been attacked. Well, actually, not really so much the left, the center. It's
center
dead
left was on his. Well, yeah, that's the point.
Exactly. And I'm very concerned for people who are leaning more further to the left wing spectrum. Communists, anarchists, socialists, progressives, people who kind of in our sort of ballpark. Well, either you're going to face your own deaths, succumb to Stockholm syndrome, be tortured or imprisoned or raped for what you believe, or commit suicide unalive. But that's just a fact. If you enter that sort of apocalyptic mindset and you think of the worst outcome, you'll be stronger for it. Don't ever play victim, and don't ever think, oh, we're the better angels. Whatever Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert and Jon Stewart are saying on these their shows that they have, that can only get you so far, my friend. Did I leave you hanging there?
Well, yeah, I thought you were. Well, sorry, I didn't know you had finished or anything, or you just thought you'd cut out or something. But yeah. So what? Have you finished? I mean,
Yeah, I finished my thought. I wanted to be dramatic and apocalyptic because that's what my mind has been thinking these past few days. Bear in mind for the audience out there, I'm mentally ill. I've got social issues. Rob, he's clean as a whistle in his head. So,
I won't go that far, but I mean,
but go on.
well, I mean, I won't go that far. But sorry, is it over to me now, or is it?
Your reaction when you heard the results, because I know between private conversations, I did state, don't tell me one thing. Let's just pretend, sleep this off, and then we'll hear before we get to work. I don't know what it was for you before you headed to work, or maybe you were on your lunch break, you saw, oh shit, Donald Trump won more than 270 electoral votes. Uh-oh, the world's going to end.
Right. Okay. Well, as I say, the one I have the the particular reaction. Well, the following particular reaction. Fuck. Shit. Bollocks. Cock. Fuck. Cunt. God. Fucking damn it. Oh, God. I mean, I should have known this was going to happen. I mean, obviously, when Biden was running, well, it was on the wall. His polls were plummeting, and that that debate he had was just pretty much sealed the deal. We figured, oh fuck, Trump's going to get back in power again, which we thought he might do again originally after he got booted out in 2020 anyway. But then, of course, Biden did drop out and Kamala took over, and of course the polls shifted, and of course I know the polls were in the Democrat favor in 2016. We'll look how that turned out, but you know, it seemed like Kamala had learned from the Democrats and Kamala had learned from mistakes of 2016. I mean, everything looked like it was doing. They seemed to run a much tighter, much more focused campaign. Kyle Kalinske was very convinced she was going to win. And Kyle Kalinske was visceral in his attacks on the 2016 Clinton campaign. I mean, and he was being pretty much on the money most times. He was saying in 2016, yeah, Trump could easily do this. Hillary hasn't got this in the bag. It's all to play for now, and Hillary's celebrating too early. And what do you know, Trump won. In 2020, saying no, the polls are just too big. Trump can't pull this off. Biden's gonna win, and more than likely, it's gonna look like Trump's in the lead at the start because they're gonna be counting the polling station votes first, which are going to skew in favor of Trump, and then the mail-in ballots, which will skew in favor of Biden, which will then Biden will win, but which will take a bit longer for it to be certified. And he was right. He also said in the 2022 midterms, they're going to expect a red wave, but actually it's more like a red trickle. They're not these views. Everything the Republicans are talking about isn't as popular as they think it is, and he was right. The Republicans didn't get the red wave. So when he was saying, yeah, it looks really like Kamala is going to win, even though it is her most conservative. The most conservative results would probably be something like Kamala 276 electoral votes, Trump 266, with like the most extreme being Kamala well over 350, with Trump barely anything. So he was really convinced, and I was thinking to myself, oh shit, Kamala could probably do this actually, and I hope so. And I was like going fuck all the way. And then I woke up and realized I saw Trump at 266 and Kamala's like 200 and barely 197. I was like, oh fuck. Unless of course that's all he's going to get, and then basically Kamala's just going to get a rest. This could be the red mirage. But then as I got there, it was like, oh, Trump did go over 270. So fuck, that's bollocks that up then. And this time around, looks like he actually managed to win the electoral votes. I know they haven't finished counting the votes in California now, which could end up mostly going to Kamala, which could mean she might end up winning the popular vote, but I doubt. But I wouldn't hold my breath on that one. So, fuck. I mean, this is why we can't have nice things. I mean, and let's face it, it's not like in unlike in 2016 where there were no policies, she actually did have some policies. I mean, two to mention would be the ban on price gouging and the $6,000 grant for new parents for child raising. And there was also, I think, was it free school meals? At least that's what Tim Waltz might have been proposing. He was actually, I mean, picking him was quite a good move for her and everything. So I'm just wondering what the reasons why. They say it's groceries were probably the ones that were what the price of groceries was what kicked it, what caused it. And I think an anti-Gaza moment would probably alienate a lot of young voters, a lot of Arab and Muslim American voters. Accepting the endorsement of Dick and Liz Cheney probably didn't help. Then it could just be an anti-incumbency election where just whoever was in power, they're just going to vote them out. So the Democrats will probably win again in freaking 2028 because I can't imagine Trump's going to do anything good. Which means that probably whereas the Democrats might need to, learn some lessons here and do some soul searching, they're probably not going to. They're probably just thinking to themselves, "Fuck, we'll just win again in 2028. Who gives a shit?" Well, it's a shame, but because especially now with Project 2025 at the helm, and Trump is basically, unlike his first term where he actually had people around him who were more committed to the duties and responsibilities of their role rather than like loyalty to him. He's just completely surrounded himself with MAGA sycophants who would not give two shits about rules and their duties and responsibilities, and just want to lick his boots. So ain't no one going to be saying no to him this time around. It's going to be a rough 4 years, put it that way. Well, for Americans anyway. I'm so glad I don't fucking live in that joke of a country.
I don't live there either. I've got dual passports as we speak, which also helps buy me out of situations that a lot of people just don't have the luxury for. A lot of people love to be in my position where I have that privilege because of the parents being from both countries, but unfortunately, there's no way I can just sponsor everyone just to come here. And I've often will tell people, well, Britain, we've got our own problems. Yes, we have certain advantages that the US doesn't have, but let's not forget we Brexited. We have the highest income inequality in Europe. Not that progressive minded on issues. Sure, we've got all these minorities, but we've still got racism. We got this and that. It's not exactly cheap to buy property. It's actually more expensive than in the US, etc., etc. But I'm not going to go into that sort of spiel because I'm sure I'm probably going to get death threats from people saying, well, you get to leave America for England. I can't. I still got huge rent and student loans. So I'm going to drop that. But for the most part, as far as I'm concerned, very, very ugly. If you're very left wing, probably even more so than me, maybe Rob, I don't know. Even trying to immigrate legally into another country could be a bit of a problem because they could very well elect a populist or pro-Russian puppet, just like the US did. So it's not exactly that easy. I mean, Germany, AFD, they're winning like flies. France, even though, NFP got into first place, many swaths of the country are friendly to Rassemblement National, which is their version of like conservative populist. Sorry, my bad. I'm still eating. Hungary, no. Russia, no. China, no. Saudi Arabia, no. Although even I'm hearing Palestinians aren't having it very well in Saudi Arabia or other Arab neighbor countries. How do you explain that? So you have nowhere to go. New Zealand, they got Winston Peters and Chris Luxon. He's not as idiotic as Trump, but built from the same cloth. So, in other words, you're alone, pal. And even if you try to secede and try to fight for your own sort of way of life, you'll be throttled down every step of the way by the courts and the legal system. They don't want you to succeed. They want you to have Stockholm syndrome and succumb to the social order. I love Trump. Candace Owens syndrome. She used to be a former Democrat, but now she's licking wounds and being some sort of right wing personality because that's what sells the tickets in the algorithms. She was banned traveling to Australia because of anti Semitism, but still, she bit off the devil's apple and it's poisoned her and she can't turn back. It will always follow back to her. So I didn't use the Bible cases, but I'm just putting it out there. Either you dance with the devil or you die. I wouldn't want to be a communist during this period. There's probably going to be another Jonestown, Guyana, if anything, or like some sort of throwback to 70s era attacks like the Weathermen and the Black Panthers shooting at places, putting bombs in buildings just because we agree as the left that we're victimized by a fascist government. And they will crack down even further. Prisons, Quantel you name it, there's no escape. I've tried to almost think about being some sort of far-right extremist. This would be the greatest day of my life. This would be Christmas. I just can't do it. I just can't be some sort of Trumpian blowhard. It's just not in my DNA. What about you? Can you be, yeah, MAGA or UK equivalent? Vote for Brexit.
No.
Stop
Well,
the
no,
votes.
dude. Like, well, no, that's just not. Yeah, okay. Well, no, that's like not. That goes against everything I would stand for. And of course, in Britain, we had a big rejection of. Well, we had a rejection of the Tories, mostly for their elitist, out of touch and just their piss poor handling of COVID and everything. That's why Starmer's Labour Party swung in with such an enormous majority, and the Tories are down to one of the worst, with their worst number of seats in over 100 years, which I'm still coming over, so that's nice. But also, we've seen a big influx of results of votes and seats for Lib Dems and the Greens, so that was nice. I know Reform had quite a bit of a surge, but that's a bit shit and everything. And now we've got Nigel Farage in the House of Commons. Well, technically, he's now over in America doing all their stuff, basically shilling for Trump. So hey, nice to see he's doing what he got voted to do. Yeah, it is a bit of a juxtaposition though, because one of the big things they said was young men, like Gen Z men, seem to predominantly vote Trump in this year. That could just be because a lot of that could just be because Gen Z didn't want to vote for the Biden-Harris ticket because of Gaza. So a lot of them didn't, which of course resulted in more of them voting for Trump. But it does seem like, which gives the impression that a lot of youngsters or Gen Z men are swinging to the right. And if that's the case in America, it's weird because it's not the case here. As I mentioned, if you look at the voter demographics for this year's election, after Labour, who everyone under the age of 65 predominantly voted for, it is mostly Lib Dems and Greens who got the most most votes from them. So obviously, bit of a difference there.
But you asked something, if I can stop you for a moment. That's another thing that's always been bothering me is for a long time we were led to believe that, young people, we're left wing. Not quite that simple. The same sort of results shown up during the French elections and German ones, and I think South Korea as well. It's where they had the whole backlash with the 4B movement because they thought men, again, they're way too much. Some of this in the UK, the reason why young people vote overwhelmingly for like Lib Dem, Greens, or Labour is probably to do with 14 years of Tory rule. If you're, of Tom or Joseph's age, all you knew was Tories. Not surprising. So you wanted to kind of choose anything other than that. I don't know. And also, I think some cultural issues may be at play here, because I know in Britain we tend to associate class with certain groups, although that isn't always straightforward, because reform voters tend to be quite working class and poor. And there are a lot of wealthy Labour types, middle class types, who thought, yeah, Jeremy Corbyn, down with the fascists, pro Palestine. He's living in a comfortable place with the bank of mom and dad. So it's not quite that simple. But that's my reasoning for why Starmer won, is mainly based on the Tory exhaustion. For the same
Well,
reason
yeah.
as that, people were exhausted by Biden not fulfilling his promises, to where they thought, hey, Trump wasn't too bad. Sure,
He did
he
some
said
good,
this.
like I say, did some good things, again, with ending the war in Afghanistan and cancelling a lot of student debt. He even tried to build back better program, but was it Kristen Sinema and Joseph Manchin both blocked it in either Congress or the Senate? I can't remember what they're part of. So it's so yeah, thank you very much to them. But yeah, now they yeah. So yeah, this is a bit of a failing upon the Democratic Party. It's not so much for young people are swinging right. I mean, just a lot of they're probably more left wing than you give them credit for. But then again, the Democratic Party weren't left wing enough for them. Again, with Gaza and with the constant what's it? The endorsement of Liz and Dick Cheney. I mean, that was not a good look. And they shouldn't have done that. They should have stuck with the whole "we're not going back" and calling JD Vance weird, because that was working. But no, I mean, it's disappointing. I reckon Kamala Harris would have made. Well, I would like to have seen her as president. Actually, I think she would have been quite good for a role. Obviously, yes, I know she's a bit of a shit lib and everything, and obviously, obviously want Bernie Sanders to be president, but well, he's too old now. It's not going to happen. If Biden's too old, fucking hell, Bernie's too old. And now Trump's regained his record of being the oldest person elected to the to presidency. He's going to be 82 when he leaves office. Who knows? Maybe he'll time will take care of it before then. Maybe his body will just falter before then. But who knows? Who knows?
And the conversations he's been having about, if you vote for me, you'll never have to vote again. I took
Yeah,
that
I know
as,
it's a bit.
I know he's hyperbolic, but I take a lot of stuff that he says quite seriously, because I know everyone's on his corner and on his side, and with SCOTUS, Supreme Court, this could get
Who are
very
just going to
ugly.
be hit,
And
who are just going to be basically Republican leaning for God knows how long now. It's already like a 7-2 bloody leaning of Republican to Democrat, and if he gets to fill, if any of those two Democrat ones end up going under his tenure, oh god, it's a dark day. I don't know if he's ever going to do any of those things and that he said he was going to do, because let's face it, he's a pathological liar, and he would probably throw them on his own people under the bus as much as he would anyone else.
that, but
So
this one, I'm much more concerned about him than last time, because he's got everyone on his corner, and there's alternative media circle with Jordan Peterson, Jordan Rogan, Ben Shapiro, all sucking his dick, everything in. He's the next coming of Jesus. He's going to do everything he says for us. Lambs to the slaughter they are. Then they don't know what's coming for them. They think, oh, he's better than that. Careful what you wish for, is all I can tell you. Maybe you might
I think they're
not want to be a
going to.
hardline.
Well, I think they're going to get. The people who vote him will get a rude awakening. I mean, they think if he's going to make their lives better, he's not. I mean, if young men have voted for Trump, if he enacts freaking Project 2025, he's going to ban porn. I mean, great one. You've kind of screwed yourself there.
Yep. No porn, no weed, none of that.
He's probably going to ban your
Abortion,
violent. He's probably going to ban
Oh,
your violent video game. He's probably going to ban your violent video games as well.
Oh yeah, no more Manhunt, no more Grand Theft Auto for you. Most you'll do is
not doing
porn.
not doing yourself many favors and everything. I mean, I know it's like he might appeal to like young men because he's got people like Dana White and Joe Rogan back supporting him because they give off a sort of macho sort of ideology, and maybe the left might need to try some of that on. But nothing. I mean,
They did try a little bit. Fetterman.
I think the most important thing to do is basically for the Democratic Party to lean back more into more populist roots, populist left-wing roots, bearing in mind things that will benefit the working class and the blue-collar people. I mean, a lot of people would probably look at our 2019 election and say, well, Jeremy Corbyn got draxed. But it's like, yeah, Jeremy Corbyn got draxed because he wouldn't take a stance on Brexit. So while in 2019 over here, while all the freaking Leave voters clearly just voted for Tories, the Remain voters just abandoned freaking Labour to more hard Remain parties like Lib Dems and Greens, as well as SNP and Plaid Cymru, and the numbers do support that. Hence why Labour's support just imploded. If Brexit hadn't been an issue, and fucking out, just like it wasn't this year, I mean, it's pretty damn obvious. Well, I'm not saying it's pretty damn obvious, but I think it's fair to say Corbyn would be in a much better shot and would have been able. And although to be fair, though, there's another problem that's come up for this latest election, which I think could have been said in our 2019 election as well. Of course, policy may be an issue, but I've also mentioned Kamala had some okay policies. I think much better policies than Hillary did in 2016. So, and Trump had fuck all policies and was a piss poor campaign in comparison to what he ran in 2016. So sometimes you can't think it's just policy. Maybe it's just vibes, basically. Trump's this outlandish, ridiculous character who's basically doing everything he can to entertain his base. Kamala's a clean-cut career politician and everything. And while she's certainly charismatic in her own way, probably not going to like entertain people like frickin' Trump was. So maybe that's just what the difference ended up being. And that could be same with our 2019. Boris, a cartoonish buffoon of a character who got everyone's attention and made everyone giggle and everything. Corbyn, who couldn't be more boring and unassuming to look at or watch if you tried. And yeah, hence why that went. So that's the point. I mean, again, Carl Kalinske says that quite a lot as well. I do tend to think Carl Kalinske quite good at this stuff, but he has got a degree in political science, so he should know something. That's why maybe in 2028, Jon Stewart should run as a Democratic nominee.
Well, I've been hearing some rumors about that. He said he got the name to his belt, or some people have even been saying Matt McConaughey, or at least for Texas governor. But I think that one's a bigger mountain to climb than the presidency alone. Texas will never be Democratic. Never. The presidency, still a question mark, but I think we're sort of living in the age of populism. This is a worldwide phenomenon. I think Trump populism.
Dude, populism again, as I mentioned, goes both ways, right wing and left wing. Their purpose was to combat right wing populism, left wing populism. That's what I'm getting at.
Well, I mean, when you think left wing populism, I often will think like Lula da Silva from Brazil, or probably Scottish National Party, Sinn Féin from Ireland.
Or the likes of Bernie Sanders and Jeremy Corbyn, or that Jean-Luc Mélenchon in France.
No, it's true. They do lean within that populist circle, to where on some issues they have been said to be class reductionist or a bit of a pro-Russian. Because I know Mélenchon does not like NATO, nor does Corbyn. But
well, they have had a very anti. anti-military, anti-war thing, and that's again probably why they're quite popular, because they don't want to do what we did in 2003 and invade another sovereign nation completely illegally.
I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly.
What military-industrial complex is destroying the world? We're saying it right now, Israel and Palestine. It's all a shit show. I don't know if that's
exactly
words, but everyone's a political pawn for someone else. I could go on about that, but here's one thing that will surprise a lot of people. Jewish people in America voted overwhelmingly for Kamala by 76%. Arab Americans were split, with some of them favoring Trump more than Harris. And here's the weird thing. Anywhere else, Jews generally lean right, especially like in France, where they go for like Les Républicains or Renaissance, which is Macron's party.
Well, not necessarily. Jews in the past have actually leaned harder to the left. That's been. I mean, okay, in a case with like this election in America, again, that's the Gaza thing going on. That's obvious. But no, I mean, like a lot of there's been plenty of Jews now. Labor. Oh God, I don't like saying this because it is so. It sounds really unfortunate on occasion. But I mean, the Miliband brothers. I trust you know about them, right?
Yeah, they're proudly
they're
Jews.
Jewish. Yes, and there've been loads and loads of ardent Jewish socialists, and obviously Karl Marx was Jewish, and Noam Chomsky is Jewish, and there's lots of other Marxists and everything that are, and Jewish people who openly lean towards Labour. I mean, I know a lot of the Tories are Jewish, and I do sort of wonder about the Jewish populations who like to vote for right-wing governments, because I know it's like they're more pro-Israel and everything, and they tend to vote that way. But you see, a lot of these people who wrote for these right-wing governments, they obviously have these incredibly bigoted, xenophobic, and racist, prejudiced views and everything. And usually it starts with the likes of Muslims or black people or trans people and Mexicans in the case of America, and Haitians, as it is of course in America. But you go along that those lists of people who they don't like, somewhere along that line, you're going to find Jews. I mean, George Carlin once said this to Larry King. Have you seen that interview, by the way?
Not that one, I'm afraid. But
I advise you
please
watch
do
it.
educate.
Well, he was talking about Andrew Dice Clay. Do you know about Andrew Dice Clay?
He's the racist comic that used to go, "Ow!" I think he's funny, but a lot offensive.
Right. Well, you shouldn't find it. But anyway, but he himself is actually Jewish, and of course, Carlin was like both of them. Carlin and Dice Clay were known for controversies surrounding their jokes, and of course, Carlin was saying, I respect his right to free speech and everything, but he shouldn't really attack minorities because they're underdogs, and satire is meant to attack power. And of course, all the people who are freaking laughing at his jokes, because again, Dice Clay is Jewish. He says, they may hate black people or immigrants or women or gay people or whatever, but along that list of people they're going to hate, they've got Jews, and you're kind of like, it's again the leopards eating my face meme again.
Unfortunately, I get what you mean by that. I it's for the reason that I don't think, Matthew Walsh, he's that guy done What is a Woman, or Ben Shapiro. I don't think
that he's a cunt, isn't he?
Oh, he's a real cunt. He plays that whole "I'm a dad with a beard" thing. I don't like these transgender people. See, it's a conspiracy. And the Gravity was like, come on. It's all sort of playing for strings. What I will say about Dice Clay is, for a long time, I didn't know he was Jewish. I just thought he was playing like some sort of Italian guy. You get these wogs and they goes out. That's what I assume New York people were like. It was like Dice Clay and my friend from New Jersey. He always likes to sort of imitate that wannabe Rocky Balboa thing, which I think is hilarious, but people might think, oh, that's a bit outdated. When I went to New York, most people didn't talk like that. They were Italian. They didn't live in the Bronx. That was more Staten Island. But I won't go into that full joke there as far as I'm concerned. But the irony what I was bringing up was in America, most Jews vote Democrat, but in Europe, it's a little bit different. Mainly, this has to do with Islamic and Jewish relations, because I think sometimes sometimes will live in similar type of neighborhoods, or Jews tend to be much wealthier than Muslim people, and there's the whole colorism, racism thing, because Jews don't have lighter complexions than Muslims. It's a bit more complicated. Like in France, Jews tend to vote for like Les Républicains, which is centre right. Although there's been more and more that lean to the far right, like Eric Zemmour, or Muslims lean far left. Even though on social issues, Jews tend to be quite progressive on abortion and gay than Muslim people are, but Muslim people, Jay, are a bit more focused on issues like racism and economics, which is why they tend to lean more on the left. It's complicated, but I understand kind of the logic, and it goes back to another conversation that may sound like I'm making some sort of Jew and a black and a colored person going to a bar, and it's that Trump
please don't, dude. What'd you say?
Group people. Trump has managed to win groups of people that were typically leaning left, Latino and black men, aside from the Gen Z men as well. Now, if you try to explain that to anyone, they would be like, well, they're minorities. Trump goes on about migrants all the time. Well, turns out reason why a lot of Latinos voted for Trump was to do with la economía. And for black men, I've heard a few issues about, well, Kamala, she's a former prosecutor. She's going to hunt down and start arresting people for drugs and stuff. Doesn't look good for PR in sort of working class inner city communities. And these were working class ethnic minority men. These weren't like sort of rich uppity types who they can buy their way out of problems. Like if you've got Eddie Murphy's money, you can get away with stuff. If you're poor, working as a construction worker, people will look at you dirty. So how do you explain that to people?
Sorry, I think I might have lost the thread somewhere you're on about. Are you? Yeah, I'm sorry. I've found a minute ago. You said something about poor construction. Sorry, I was reading up on some of the. You mentioned about the Jews, French Jews. So I was looking up some of the French Jewish politicians. Well,
it was me bringing up ethnic minority men voting for Trump a lot more so than 4 years ago, which, I can't use the whole, well, Trump is a racist claim anymore because he's managed to win support from some black men.
You can. I mean, he's still a racist and everything, just because like some people who might have been of marginalized groups decided to vote for him, like Arabs and Latino. So men, not Arabs and Latino women, although white women did. So so say goodbye to control of your uteruses because you've signed that one over away, Hunt. Actually, no, don't say that because that's actually misogynist to Americans. But dickheads. I don't know. Well, I mean, the Arabs, I say I can understand, but basically that's more anti-incumbency. They didn't like Biden-Harris ticket on Gaza, so maybe that can be. I can explain that away, possibly. Latinos, I'm really not too sure, to be honest. I mean, dude, they're going to try and deport you, or maybe they thought maybe he'll be trying to stop people who are trying to escape from Mexico and going away. But I don't know, to be honest. I mean, it is fucking stupid.
I'm going to explain a little.
As for the working class people, again, I'm not too sure of it. Again, they may have felt that like groceries were too expensive. That's why they swung to the Republicans, even though a lot of the Rust Belters voted and union types voted for Trump in 2016 because he promised he'd protect their jobs and or get their jobs back. But he didn't. and he had like those 4 years, and he didn't, and Biden actually did. But I mean, I guess they just were a little bit. They didn't have great memory. They were a little bit amnesiac about that. But again, I mean, the Democratic Party's social. I mean, I think the Democratic Party should just call it a day. It's clearly not fit for purpose. I mean, it's clearly not. They just lose to Trump twice. Fucking twice now. And this time around, they lost, didn't even win the popular vote. There's something seriously wrong with them. They need him not fit for purpose. They need another one. And I don't know what they're going to do. They need to form a new ideology and form a new what am I going to say? New ideology, new bunch of policies. There's a new party around maybe what the squad basically. I trust you know who the squad are.
Sheila Tlaib, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Presley. I know Cory Bush and Jamal
Actually, I
Bowman.
think it was just those four. Dude, it was just those four, I think. Well, it might be the other ones, but I think it was those four. Rashida,
Tlaib.
Is it? No. I was going Rashida, Alexandra, Ilan, and Ariana. Yeah, I think it's pronounced Rashida Tlaib, isn't it? That's how I've heard it pronounced.
It could be. It's the AI thing. It's a little hard for me to pronounce. It's why I say Rick Mile, not Rick Mail. Just ignore me when I do that.
Oh, I don't worry. Ignoring you is what I do best, Mark. So where was I? Yeah, they need to I think they need to sort of base a new second party around them and the likes of Bernie Sanders and just people who could understand the needs of the masses and everything. I mean, don't be class reductionists because again, movements like Black Lives Matter and trans rights are important. And I hope to fuck they don't somehow think that because they lost, they need to move further to the right and be more transphobic. And because again, everyone's going to have their opinions on why the Democrats have lost. I've given mine, and loads of people. Jonathan Pye has given his. He says Kamala didn't have any policies. He was wrong. And many others and everything. I mean, the likes of the Young Turks and Francesca Fiorentini and David Dole of Rational National and Mike Figueroa of the Humanist Report are going to have theirs. I'm just waiting for Bill Maher to blame it all on wokeness because he's Bill Maher and that's all he can talk about now. Because he's such a fucking prick. He's like Hunt 2.0. Oh, don't get me started. I'm going to go ramble again. Everyone's going to have their opinions on their views on whatever caused the election to go the way they did. And it's going to be basically the fault of whatever thing they don't like and everything. I just hope the Democrats listen to the right people and not the wrong people. But then again, that's going to be a vague thing to say. And take away the right lessons and not the wrong ones. Because I don't want them to be more fascist and more further to right and say, oh, we must kick out more immigrants and we must be harsher on trans people, which is sometimes I worry what Starmer and his ilk in the New Labour have started trying to take away. I don't know if they actually are, but anyway, yeah, I probably just rambled a bit. So over to you.
The centre left has been using right-wing talking points about immigration to try to help siphon off votes from, obviously, the far right, who seems to be making headways with a lot of voters. The only country where I think this has worked quite successfully is Denmark, where Mette Frederiksen used right-wing talking points about immigration as a means to cancel off votes from the other side, to where she even got re-elected and her party at the expense of refugees, asylum seekers that were there legally or illegally, confiscating their property, all these hefty fines, and draconian methods to try to pay them to get their way out of Denmark. I think for a country that prides itself on quite progressive nature. I thought Denmark's solution was quite draconian, and I don't endorse that. Compared to Sweden, which is in limbo right now. I really don't know what to say, but I think my opinion on it is they're probably going to drop the whole identity politics business because that's not popular with anyone. All I keep hearing
To be honest,
news
Mark,
outlets is how people identity
Mark,
politics.
I need to cut in. Mark, I need to cut in. All right. Sorry to do that, but during this whole election, Kamala's campaign didn't mention identity politics once. They were completely out. That was absent from her campaign. I know the right wing are going to say you need to move away from this wokeness identity politics, but they didn't talk about it. Kamala, I mean, the right tried to bring it up. I was like, is she black? Is she Indian? She can't seem to decide. I don't know. But it's like, whenever asked about it, she said, well, I'm here to represent all of America, and we're not here to talk about that. And it's like, yeah. Even like AOC, who talked a bit about it back in the day, didn't talk about it at all during the frickin' Democratic rallies. Or Democratic, actually, what was it? Conference? No, shit, what was it? Oh, I don't remember. Anyway,
Yeah.
they didn't talk about it. So, again, this time they need to move away from identity politics is a completely dead canard because it's just not something they talked about.
Well, here's the problem. Right-wingers control a lot of the media. Not the Jews. Right-wing people control a lot
That's
of
because
the
they
media.
buy it all out.
Enforce the narrative again and again, and the lie becomes the truth. George Orwell taught me that. So that's probably what happened there. If you convince the public, well, she's going on about all these minority groups at the expense of you, white man, working class Christian, that's identity politics. The right uses it. Why not the left? I think we should have political segregation. I don't want to be around people who want me dead. I'd rather take myself out than someone try to torture and imprison me for the rest of my life like people on the far right do. It's a lot easier being a Christian male white supremacist than it is to be LGBT black female supremacist. That's just a fact. That's not going to change anytime soon. You can have all the foreign and ethnic minority people on films and TV shows as window dressing for white. See, we're diverse. But are you? It's just window dressing. So you have to fit a fine balance there.
Well, to be honest, I mean, like you talked about how the right wing own more of the media, but of course we're going to. I mean, the right wing is basically about less taxes for billionaires and rich. So whereas the left wing want to make it so that the rich don't hold such a piece of a pie. So obviously the rich are going to fund more media that promotes right wing. You have that much money, there's no way you can spend it all. It's just if you bought every last luxury you can imagine and all your needs were met, you still have way too much left over. So we're saying, what do you buy with that kind of money? It's just, and the answer is politicians or media outlets, and that's it. That's exactly why all the these so many right wing medias, because people like Elon Musk just buy that shit out.
Exactly. What's there to stop them, really? The courts, they don't really like to have on corporate malfeasance, unless you're FTX. But yeah, I get your point. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all
If
right.
it sounds like I didn't really eat much today. I was too worried. But nevertheless, it is very concerning. I mean, if I had billions just lying around, fuck all. I wouldn't really use it. I'll just pay off my debts, probably get a new car, probably live in Islington, in Greater London.
if you couldn't actually do the experiment yourself, Mark, I've just sent you a file I've done myself on.
Okay. Well, no, I'm just staying, from what you've told me, because they've got more money than they've got sense.
Well,
and that
yeah,
can be
more
said.
money, too much money in their hands.
Although I'm a bit of a hypocrite in this respect because I'm a fan of Richard Branson of Virgin. He hasn't said much about, this political malarkey. I don't think he's a Trump guy, but he probably would benefit tax-wise. He comes across like Warren Buffett, who's like, oh, I take no side. I'll just keep on with my business and have my ice cream. That whole humble humility thing, it can only get you so far, although I'm sucking into a lot of Virgin products myself. See how much I gloat on about Virgin Records, who distributed through South London, and even had a mega store that I used to visit in almost every time. I bought some of my first CDs there. But
Really,
besides that,
yeah, I mean, I don't really have much to say about it. I mean, probably a little off topic, to be honest. I mean, I'll just give you an idea of just how much ridiculous money they have. And of course, that's probably a big cause of just how, to be honest, that's a lot of cause of populism today, because that started ever since 2008 credit crunch. But of course, I mean, those people who are responsible are also ones for it, are also responsible for all the most of the media. So of course they want to blame all your problems on immigrants and whatnot, or just the underdogs and everything, the less fortunate, welfare queens and all that stuff. Wink, wink.
yes,
And of course, yeah, people just buy it. It doesn't help, but of course, if for those who are less well educated, it's very easy to be convinced that those are the problems. Obviously, for those who are more educated and hated, we see through the bullshit and we know who's responsible. And basically, it's like, yeah, I'm not saying we should go guillotine every billionaire and everything. I'm just saying we should guillotine some of them. I'm not actually advocating that, by the way. I'm just joking. But fucking hell, mate, tax the rich.
unfortunately, that will never happen within our lifetimes. If it couldn't happen now, and it certainly couldn't happen in the 80s, where a lot of that whole yuppie culture was the thing, it was a la mode. So if it happened by the time you're 60 and I'm 75, I'll be like, well, at least I'll be happy in a caravan, fat and lonesome. I'll probably be dead before I'm
The
75.
80s where it all started getting fucked up, because I mean, it's like the whole point we want is to basically reverse everything Thatcher and Reagan did in the 80s, which would stop people like Trump and Farage getting so much power. But the question is how. But I mean,
Well, the is
on a
this
more
new
reflection to a 2024 election, it's well, it sucks that Trump is president, and oh god, JD Vance as the bloody vice president. I mean, he's a weird motherfucker, isn't he?
I find him a big hypocrite, and I don't know what's with the eyeliner that he wears on his eyes. It's a bit distracting, but uh, you know, just no. No, someone who says, I can't stand Trump. He's, like, want to be Hitler or Mussolini. And then seconds later, he sucks his dick because he was running for Senate in Ohio. I'm just like, I can't trust this guy.
Well,
Never did.
he's just a he's a weirdo. Of course, I just wrote shit. He's
And
younger
he
than I
can
thought he was. He's only a year older than I am. Which is another thing that
well,
basically just made me. Pardon?
that also makes me concerned too, because aren't millennials supposed to be so lefty? Not really. Look at him and Kemi Badenoch. They're like in their,
wait. She's dude. She's not a millennial. She's Gen X.
I thought 1980, that's sort of on the cusp.
Millennials start at 81.
Well, as you wish.
and while we're on the subject, well, first of all, I was going to mention that okay, even if Kamala had won, America, she's still technically a boomer. She was born in '64, but very late '64. She might be a very honorary Gen Xer, but America still hasn't had a Gen X president. We in Britain have now 3 Gen X prime ministers, by which I mean Cameron, Truss, and Sunak. But I mean, France has got its Gen X president right now, and of course many others. But of course, but also I find, contrary to the OK boomer claim, I'm going to start to think Gen X are worse than the boomers. It seems to be Gen X that mostly vote that where Trump got his most support from. And I find out in terms of politician popularity in Britain, Nigel Farage is most popular amongst Gen Xers. So it's like, to say nothing of Joe Rogan and Dana White, and Elon Musk being Trump's massive fanboys. So yeah, not looking good for that so-called, for that generation that think they're really cool and everything. But then again, I've always seen Gen Xers not particularly great anyway.
Well, I found that a bit ironic myself. I mean, I'm usually cool with Gen X people. My parents have that sort of mindset, although my mother was born in '61, my father was born in '64. But to me, they act like people who've listened to too much music from the '80s. That's what separates Gen X and baby boomers apart. If you're in that post-punk new wave shit, chances are you're probably a Gen Xer. And sometimes, like with Kemi Badenoch and Rishi Sunak, they're sort of on the cusp, like a very early millennial. Because to me, I still view Rishi Sunak as someone who just finished their doctorate degree. And Kemi Badenoch, she doesn't even look like she's 44. Black don't crack. But she's, a bad example for a conservative woman of color. She says some of the stupidest shit. She's doing the Candace. That's why I can't stand Kemi or Suella Braverman.
Well, I never liked her. Well, I don't like Tories in general, so I mean, I'm not really. The mere fact that basically they're part of a Tory party is enough to put a bad taste in my mouth. So I mean, yeah, not really to a good start.
Oh no, not at all. Although I am the more conservative one out of the two, so I'm likely to not be as harsh as you are, certain people and whatnot. But at the same time, I can't stand Trump. I can't stand Kemi or Suella. Nigel Farage, the only thing that's good about him is, having a bit of a chin wag at the pub. He would be a hilarious person to hang around, but outside of that, no thank you. Donald Trump, the only good thing I can say about him is that his PR and advertising campaign this election was fucking brilliant.
Well, it must have been to get him re-elected. It must be getting re-elected again. Because let's face it, in terms of policy, he didn't offer much. Again, as I mentioned, Carl Klinsky was saying he was running a terrible campaign, whereas Kamala was running a really on-point one. Because why the fact it went this way made it more surprising. Yeah, but of course, another thing that's going to be some things that are going to basically a few things that are going to be big issues. Trump wants to put a 200% or 100% trade tariff on any imports to the US. So, hey, Americans, if you think your stuff's expensive now, just you fucking wait. And not a great for economics. And let's go to the whole Gaza war again. Yeah, if you think Biden and Kamala were too hawkish on this shit, oh fuck. Netanyahu was jubilant that Trump got elected, and Trump is basically going to let him, quote unquote, finish the job. And I think you know what that means.
Kill every Palestinian and deport every Muslim from Israel to make Israel from its own sea to the river. And I know I'm probably going to get banned and cancelled for saying that, but what's there to stop him, really?
Nothing. No one's going to
Even
stop me. Yeah, ain't no
well,
one going to stop him now. We'll carry on.
he keeps bombing and terrorizing Lebanese and Palestinian people. It's only going to create another refugee wave. He's probably going to. It's going to have unintended consequences, and we already had refugee problems since 2015 throughout Europe. Probably going to get a lot worse. But outside of that, all I can tell you is this, because I'm powerless in all of this. I'm absolutely powerless. I'm glad I'm not in certain countries where if we were doing this interview, secret police would come knocking on our door and arrest us and beat us to death and imprison and use electric cables to get information from us. Like, what are you doing? Why are you recording this subversive material? I know you're an atheist, but thank the good Lord you don't have to be in that situation. But it could very
Well, yeah,
well happen. If it can happen in the UK, it could happen.
I know. Well, we are lucky we don't live in those countries. Although, again, one might ask, are the Americans basically only temporarily not living in that country? Because, again, we don't know what Trump's going to do. But my only hope is that basically he'll be too incompetent to get it done.
Well, funny enough you said that. I will say this. Unlike Vladimir Putin or Lukashenko, Trump is so over the top and out of control. You can read him like a book. Putin is dead serious. He doesn't joke. And he's very sly and clever with his word games and whatever he does. That he's terrifying because you don't know what he could do. Trump, on the other hand, is so chaotic and so silly. I'm sure there's probably Republicans who are thinking, look at this asshole. We can work him like a rope, but we'll suck his dick anyway, just so we can
all they
get
do is tell him
elected.
things all they have to do is tell him things he wants to hear, and he'll eventually be bend over backwards for him. I mean, it's what the Saudis and the Chinese and North Korea just did when they spoke to him. And it's like, oh, they were great. I remember when he spoke about Kim Jong Un, when he said, "Oh, it's amazing. He's so respected. He just he speaks to his delegates, and they just stand right up." It's like, yeah, Donald, because they're afraid that if they don't, they're going to suddenly disappear.
And the fact that he's getting all the autocrats on his side and, shaking hands and all that terrifies me. Because yet again, another major country becomes a broken empire yet again, like the Rome. It didn't end in a day, it ended in decades. And while I am grateful for being in the UK, I do live under the mindset any minute now, America or Russia or Chinese problems will come on British shores. Don't ever take for granted. Even Northern Ireland, which is part of the UK, had the Troubles, and that lasted for 30 years. What makes you think something like that or whatever can't happen in the UK? We had two political assassinations, Joe Cox and David Amos. 7/7. A whole lot of shit. Southport riots. That was our Charlottesville. What makes you think, let's say, Kemi Badenoch or Nigel Farage becomes our new dictator-in-chief in the UK, unconstrained by the courts and the powers that be?
Well, that's the thing. I know that's the problem. We need to make sure that they did say that the election in America is a wake-up call for Starmer's Labour Party of what could happen to them if they don't get their act together and start doing things that help the British people. So they need to make sure. I mean, although I do hear Angela Rayner is working on a 4-day working week, and fuck me, I am here for that. So so yes, I do think that's a good thing. Pardon?
I do like the sound of 4-day work week. You'll probably have to work 10 hours instead of like 7.5 or 8, but at least you'll be off on a Friday. But the point is, writing is on the wall, my friend. Everyone was complaining about the Rachel Reeves budget, and how she's raising taxes on income and stuff like that. She didn't raise it on fuel duty, which helps me, but on other things, and bus fares go up to £3, there's going to be a lot of angry people.
Yeah, they are doing.
And that
They have done some.
benefit-
They have done some other things. Recently, I think they're like the right to buy. They're sort of like clamping down on, so people can't just buy up council houses and start renting to people, which is going to help people who need some place to live. There were other things, but fuck if I can remember what they are. But this 4-day working week might be helpful. But again, they've got until 2029 to make sure they freaking get shit sorted out and make sure they don't fuck shit up. And we don't. Not that I think the Tories would necessarily win the next election, but because it will take them. Because let's face it, going from the current seat in parliaments to like a complete switcheroo would be quite a doing. So we got to be careful. Maybe it'll be a hung parliament next time round. But you know what? If Labour did a coalition with Lib Dems, I'm all here for that. Trying to think what else can we? What's we?
Lib Dem
Pardon?
polling is stronger than all the other parties combined. Because Starmer's poll ratings are actually slightly lower than even Nigel Farage of all things, which tells you a great deal. But a lot of the lower poll numbers were a result of particularly two things: winter fuel payment cuts and Southport. The public found that he did not manage that very well at all.
I know, but unfortunately, it is still reasonably early days. I mean, they've been in power for 4 months now, which isn't too short a period of time. But again, still early days. We don't know what's going to happen between now and 2029, other than the fact that by 2029, by the time of the next election, Trump shouldn't be president anymore. Thank fuck.
Here's what I'm preparing for. I'm preparing for that Trump will be president for life. He'll use the Supreme Court to say, oh,
To be fair, he's quite old, so that's not going to be too much longer.
Well, you might have J.D. Vance. He might be like Gerald or George H.W. and take on from his predecessor and terrorize more people about not having children, but you have a cat. You're a childless cat, man. You're offended greatly. Oh.
Well, I am, but thankfully, JD Vance is over there, and I'm here. Speaking of Israel, do you want to talk about the events in Amsterdam?
There was a attack against football fans. The Tel Aviv football team, or they were killed or attacked, if I'm correct.
Basically,
there's been because
it's essentially a football riot in Amsterdam. Basically, it's a football riot we're going on in Amsterdam, and hang on a second, I can't remember the name of the two teams that are playing. Sorry, spare me a second. And yeah, it's just basically football hooligans who ask me. Yeah, there was a football match in Amsterdam between Maccabi Tel Aviv and AFC Ajax. Basically, the fans of Maccabi Tel Aviv came into and probably incensed by Trump's recent victory, as you can imagine, were behaving like cunts and were spouting a lot of anti-Arab slurs, and they assaulted an Arab Dutch taxi driver and were attacking houses with Palestinian flags on. And clearly the Dutch people just fought back against it. And now it's been branded like an anti-Semitic pogrom. But it's like, was it though? I mean, no synagogues were attacked that I know of. No Jewish businesses were attacked that I know of. And last I checked, no Dutch Jews were actually attacked. Just seems more like a typical football riot. a football or some football hooligan violence, which the Israeli fans started. So I mean, yeah.
Well, that doesn't make me feel easy, because usually, this may sound offensive, but usually it's the Jews that are often the victim, while they often portray the Muslim as the aggressor or the neo-Nazi. This sounds like some sort of weird shit that was started out by ZDL, which is the Zionist Defense League. They're hardline Jewish militants who like to attack Arab neighborhoods and stuff. And they're very much like the sort of Jewish version of like the Proud Boys or English Defense League or the Muslim Brotherhood. I don't trust these people for the same reasons I don't trust neo-Nazis. Take that shit outside. Europe's got enough problems already.
Right, well, I don't know about any of that, but I mean, all I was talking... No, but basically what I was referring... But basically, I was just more thinking that they're painting it as an anti-Semitic pogrom, but it's like, it's not, it's a football riot. But basically, I mean, and again, it's the football riot that they started, because they're the ones being racist towards Arabs.
Well, it's honestly not surprising. I mean, there's a lot of tension between Jews and Arabs, especially since 7th of October. But they're not helping out things. Take off Jew versus Muslim and replace it with English football fans terrorizing the French team because they lost, or they called the black football player or gollywog or something through bananas like Mario Balotelli on the Italian team. If you put it in that context, you'll understand. Really, take that shit outside. Don't cause that kind of trouble. It was blaming on British football fans, but I see thuggish football fans in other countries. Some people even say the Greeks are pretty bad at it too. And I thought, really? I thought it was only the English that are hooligans. I mean, Tommy Robinson is an offshoot of that sort of culture. I think he was a football hooligan fan, but then he turned into some sort of right-wing pariah.
Well, I mean, well, his name isn't even Tommy Robinson. It's Stephen Yaxley Lennon. He's probably more middle class. Actually, no, I think he's probably working class and everything. But I mean, he is associated with the football hooliganism, but I think he abandoned EDL because he thought they were too much football hooliganisms. Not because he didn't like their racism, but he thought they were too gauche. But as for football hooliganism, yeah, I think the English or the British in general, but mostly the English. Well, Scots have probably got some. Well, we're probably the champs at it. Although the Russians can certainly give it their all with that one. Fucking hell.
I mean, American football fans, NFL and NHL, they're quite mild. The most they'll do is just get drunk and probably vomit. But football fans in England are some of the worst. I don't know what it is in the culture, but it doesn't. That's one thing that doesn't make me proud to be British.
Well, no. Well, being someone who's half English and half Welsh, so 100% British, I think, well, when it comes to sports, I'll support England in the rugby and Wales in the football. That way, I avoid the worst of the fan bases.
I would agree with you there. The most, I'll take people vomiting and pissing on the street. But getting into fights and breaking into buildings, you're not helping out your cause. There's no reason to do that. It's not like a political situation. Like you try to take my money in taxes and give it to rich people, or you call me a black bastard. No, this is just causing bother. I know we're getting a little bit off topic on this, but I think the violence isn't gonna get any better. It's probably gonna get a lot worse. And even though the threat of in the US election insurrection is probably not going to happen, there may be the possibility of far left terrorism by Antifa or NFC not fucking around, which is an offshoot of Black Lives Matter or anything like that, redneck revolt, like the likes we haven't seen since the 1970s. I don't know if I'm wrong on this.
I mean, well, racism isn't always as acceptable as it was back then, although it's probably more acceptable than we would actually like it to be. I mean, as I said, the arc of history is, or the long arc of history is hard, but it does tend to bend towards justice, to quote Martin Luther King. So, I mean, whereas like a racist nowadays probably won't be as horrifically racist as a racist in the 70s, but again, I say this as a white person, so what the fuck do I know?
Well, they've got
I suppose.
different names.
I suppose
for it. So
I will say one. I just remembered one thing to sort of bring up. I mean, considering the recent election, is that the right wing in America are now trying to make the same thing that they were saying at the result of the 2016 campaign, the whole "we won, get over it, snowflakes," and started bragging, calling us having liberal meltdowns. It's like, and we're just like, dude, do you just like not remember how you guys reacted to the results of the 2020 election? Because being upset is one thing, dressing up like a Viking and storming the Capitol is another thing.
exactly, who's the real snowflakes? I would say the far right.
Oh, they are. They are. They already figured it out. Yes.
I think what the right wing tends to do a lot is projection. They always like to accuse people of stuff when maybe deep down they may have had some of those inhibitions. You're queer, or you might have been tickling little boys in the church, or toe tapping in the bathrooms of another man. You're a feminazi, and you asked your wife to get an abortion, and you covered it in the news so you can run for re-election. Oh,
You better mistress get an abortion.
I don't like all these coloured people coming in this neighbourhood. And yet you have a black mistress to the side. Ever heard of Strom Thurmond? In my case, exactly.
Yes.
So the far right does a lot of projectioning, and we take it as fact. No, thank you. And even on the left, we are a little bit guilty of it too. Everyone's a racist. Well, someone said something about Jews and Mexicans or something like that. I'm even going to go on the record and say this to everyone out there. Yes, I do lean left, but I'm not very PC and I'm not very woke. I have been accused of racism, homophobia, and sexism. And yes,
yeah, you're going to need to work on that, dude.
I am a mixed race person, guilty. I don't like Gen Z people, even though I'm a younger millennial. I have been homophobic and called people the other F word, even though I do. Some people might think I have some homoerotic inclinations towards feminine looking men. And I've also called women bitches and whores, even though I love my mother a lot and my grandmother. So I am no angel. I am no saint. So that was for Tom, who's listening, in case he's wondering, because he probably thinks I'm the devil or a hypocrite to the cause.
Well, I think he's probably going to. Well, to be fair, I don't think we've got time to get to all the things Tom might think about you, to be honest. I mean, it's yeah, that's another can of worms. I think we can just put away for the time being. But I suppose we need to start summarizing this and everything because we've been going for almost an hour and a half now. But I think in total, we can say, holy fuck, cannot believe this happened. I mean, I can believe it happened, but really didn't think it was going to. Shit, the world's most powerful nation is totally fucking cooked. And it is quite nauseating every 4 years as someone, as an outsider looking in, having to watch the world's most powerful nation see if they can make the right decision by not electing a complete fuckwit for the highest office in the land. So yeah, how fucked up is that?
It doesn't give me much hope and confidence for the American people. While there are, a few saints, there are a lot of sinners. I know I'm using sort of Bible speak here, but just hear me out on this. If you don't think he's going to switch on you and, point the finger at you when it's convenient for him, you better be, because Trump is loyal to no one except Donald John Trump. And
Yep.
I really, I'm grateful that I'm not in the United States, but I know the UK at any minute now will face the same problem. In Europe, outside of our borders, now that we're not part of the EU, everyone is sucking the Trump. What's the word? Everyone's drinking the Trump Kool-Aid. Right-wing populism, anti-immigrant sentiment, fear of this and that, using sort of rhetoric about, oh, I hate immigrants or trans people, but cutting your taxes for the rich and corruption scandals like Georgia Maloney and trying to censor the press. Hungary, they're beyond repair. Even Georgia, the country, not the state, that's could very well beyond repair because they elected a pro-Russian candidate. No country is safe. And the most I can ask for people on the left to do in return, segregate amongst themselves, even if it's illegal by the law, because if someone tries to come and put the gun at your head, even people who say they're left-wing, like the Chinese Communist Party, don't trust them, because they may have certain methods, or what's the word that I'm trying to think of? They may have certain interests at heart that aren't in your interests, and they'll kill you and torture and imprison you. Don't let that happen, or you'll face suicide or death.
Yeah, okay, Mark. Right, Mark. Okay, fine. What was I going to say? I mean, to all the people who did vote Trump, and especially like the white women or women who voted Trump, say, well, hope you enjoy your bodily autonomy, because you're not going to have much of it. So the elderly people who voted Trump in America, hope you don't mind your social security being cut. And to all minorities, I mean, again, the whole leopards eat my face meme is going to be a big thing. It's going to be a big thing now. But so yeah, that's a thing. To all the people in America who are listening, and well, who the fuck are listening, who didn't vote for Trump and are getting feeling despondent. Look, I know it looks dark, okay, I know shit, and yes, you lost the battle, but you haven't lost the war. Don't give up hope yet. You can start fighting back, or you don't give them. If you give up now, they do win the war, and they will win permanently. You need to make sure by 2028 they don't win again. To quote Leonidas, Mark, shush, I'm not finished. To quote Leonidas from 300, and give them nothing, but take from them everything. I'm finished now.
I will no further comment on your response. Your response is certainly a lot more optimistic than mine. I have a pessimistic heart because I don't have much trust in people, and even though they like to blame election denial on the right, we on the left can do it too. But the threat of insurrection probably not going to happen. The most we're going to get is probably like protests on the street, and they're going to spray water cannons on us, arrest us, beat us, spit at us. Yeah. Enjoy having fun being sprayed with water and then getting hypothermia by the police on this upcoming day where they certify the results. How would you like that? Or you can enjoy the Trump wagon, suck his dick, and Arnold Palmer's while you're looking at him in the showers. That was the funniest thing that he said, by the way. And be part of the MAGA movement and praise the church of DJT instead of LDS. My Father, Heavenly Savior, Donald John Trump will save America from itself and kill the communists and the woke people. Amen.
Right, fair enough. Okay. Like I say, the probably
And
at least the left won't be storming the cap or anything like for right in 2021 because again they're not going to be trying to stage a coup or anything. So yeah, that's that. Okay, so I guess that's that then. Shall we wrap this up?
yes, I think I've said enough. I'm probably going to go to prison for what I'm thinking or saying under the
don't
new
think you will.
online safety anti-terrorism act. I mean, I could have said, get your guns, stock them up, because the left can't be victims anymore, needs to have firearms to protect themselves from the enemy within. But I know in the UK, that's a legal grey area, so I'm going to have to censor that, and I really don't want to. But outside of that, I will shut up and go suck Arnold Palmer's dick in the meantime, like Donald Trump wants to do. Speak later, everyone, and good
Sarah,
night.
good night.
So I had to go. So I had to go. So I had to go.